Okay, well, so once again, welcome to this webinar about study abroad at William & Mary. I'm delighted to get to meet you virtually. If I haven't had a chance to meet you at previous study abroad fairs or orientations, or in the future, if you are here on campus. My name is Sylvia Mitterndorfer. I'm the director of the Global Education Office and also director of Global Partnerships at William & Mary, which means I work with a lot of different types of international opportunities, including study abroad. The Global Education Office at the Reeves Center is the home for study abroad programs at William & Mary. And so today's session is really to lay out generally what study abroad looks like and get maybe a little bit more granular than you might have heard at other presentations, and to help really guide next steps or provide some language around what your students might be telling you about. I'm joined today by my colleague, Lisa Roney, who's going to help me with questions at the end. The structure of our program today is a brief overview PowerPoint discussion, and then we will open it up for questions. There is a Q&A function at the bottom of your screen, and so feel free to add some questions, and we'll leave some room at the end to make sure we get through as many of them as we can. You're also always welcome to reach out to our office, and we're always open for students to come throughout the week to ask questions as well. So this is not the end all be all, but really we hope a helpful next step for you as you support your students. So I'm going to share my screen briefly to talk through what this could look like at William & Mary. So once again, from the Global Education Office at the Reeves Center. So one of the first things is, why study abroad? Like, there are a lot of technical things and logistics and other things that may come to mind as we think about study abroad. And I want to make sure to answer as many of your questions as I can related to that. But at the same time, it's really important for us to always step back and say, why do we value this so much? And in so doing, why is it part of our curriculum? Why, basically the why question. And so, of course, we work with hundreds of different study abroad opportunities. The goals of different programs are all different, but there's some core parts that really align well with the overall mission of William & Mary, the liberal arts perspective, and being able to understand different perspectives and different subject matters. And so our students go abroad for many different specific academic reasons, but academics are at the core of what these programs are. And our students are learning from, again, different programs, different models, but they're learning from the locations where they are. They're learning about other people, other cultures, other languages, perhaps, or learning about their subject matter from a different perspective. We don't have a Great Barrier Reef in front of our nose here, but study abroad opens up those opportunities. As political other events happen around the world, our students can get different perspectives from different locations. And so it's learning about others and learning about their field of study, or learning more about other topics that maybe they're not taking here at William & Mary. But in so doing, of course, centrally, it is also about learning about oneself. And so that is very much at the core of what we do. We work really closely with the Cohen Career Center as well around things of how to maximize these learning experiences then for future beyond William & Mary, for careers, for the kind of life beyond college, and very much align our programs with some of the core competencies that we know are really critical. And then from our alumni, we hear time and time again about how impactful these experiences have been to them, both in the kind of connections they've made locally or with other students who they've met, the different types of study skills they might be using, or just different ways of seeing their field of study, but also on the more kind of interpersonal and personal levels of greater flexibility and learning to adapt to life outside the university environment here in Williamsburg. And so for all of those and many more reasons, we really believe that study abroad has tremendous potential to be impactful for students, both academically and personally, and for their future careers. So what does that look like at William & Mary? Again, we have, obviously the pandemic certainly changed some things for a few years, but the demand and the interest for study abroad has, if anything, really kind of come back fully, and we're able to offer so many different opportunities again. And so you can see that more than half of William and Mary students study abroad at least once by the time they graduate. And there are students, one of the students who works in our office, in fact, has been on 5 study abroad programs. So there are lots of different ways of engaging with international opportunities. And the other key point I just want to highlight is that everything that we're talking about today is meets the Call 300 requirement. And so that's both important for your student as they're planning for their academic plans for their 4 years and how everything fits together and meeting all the requirements. But I also want to signal that also want to share that this is really a representation of how it's not just our office or a few people who think that these international opportunities are important. This was a curriculum written by our faculty, and they placed front and center as one of the areas they really wanted to highlight the importance of taking of kind of people-to-people contact and taking one's studies into a different context and into the global perspective. And so again, it shows how integrated study abroad is, as opposed to it just being some kind of standalone experience. One of the first questions we often get from students and parents are, when can I go abroad? And there really are many different options. You'll hear me say this in different contexts, but one of the difficult things about talking about study abroad at William & Mary is that there are not just a few options, there are hundreds and hundreds of options. We really, in our office, really seeks to work with students individually to help them find the best program that meets their interests. And as a result, with so many different choices, a lot of times there are lots of different opportunities. In the semester, generally, students go abroad during their junior year. That could be fall or that could be spring. We also see that for some majors or in some particular circumstances, second semester sophomores may also be looking to study abroad. But those are the primary times when students are going for a semester. For a year. They remain full-time William & Mary students during this time, and they do have to take at least a minimum of 12 credits, just like they would here on campus, to make sure that they remain on track towards graduation. In the summer, and that is often the first study abroad experience students will have, it can be really any time after their first year with us, or if they're a transfer student, second semester, so after that first semester at William & Mary. And these are often really great programs for students who may also be thinking, oh, I may want to do a semester program, but let me try out a summer program. And so by doing that earlier in their academic career, that allows, time to then come back, as many of our students do, and say like, oh, now I want to go study abroad again. And then they still have time to do that, but they are open across all of the years. Students are here until graduation. So for those 3 summers for most students. And then winter, this is an area where you might have noticed looking at the calendar that there's quite some time in January, and we run a number of winter programs. This is an area we've seen really strong increased demand in as well, and have been scaling up the offerings there. And really winter can be possible even after just one semester at William & Mary. So even during freshman year, although for the most part, it is sophomores, juniors, and seniors who are participating in those. One of the other things that I have a goal for this session is, because you might have your student come home to you and say, oh, I'm looking at a sponsored semester or an embedded program, and there's a whole language around what these programs are. And so I wanted to just take a moment and talk through what each of these programs look like, give you some examples. And that way, if your student talks to you about it, you'll have a sense of like, oh, okay, this is the language and this is what this means. So William & Mary has a few William & Mary sponsored semester programs. These are programs where we work really closely with partners in country to develop programs that are closely connected to William & Mary. The 3 that are most regular are the La Plata, Argentina Human Rights Program, which we'll talk about in a minute. But we also have a program in Sevilla, Spain, and a program in Oxford, at Oxford University, Hartford College, and one partnership in Montpellier, France as well. although that's tied to an exchange, which is the next category. William and Mary exchange programs are ones where we have relationships with institutions around the world and where we essentially are trading students back and forth, where our students have the opportunity to enroll directly at a different university overseas, see what student life is like there, and vice versa. There's a community of these students here, and so they're part of this this mobility between institutions. William and Mary faculty-led short-term programs, as the name implies, is that a William and Mary faculty member travels with the group, teaches some or all of the courses overseas, but in close collaboration with on-site local partners, mostly universities or other organizations that provide insight and support of the academic mission of the program. Embedded programs are programs that take place during a regular academic semester program. There are not many of these, but it could mean that a regular class here on campus might go somewhere for spring break, for example, or at the end of the semester, the fall semester, go somewhere for a week or so over winter break, or similarly in the spring. So those are what embedded programs are. And then lastly, non-William and Mary programs. And so these are third-party programs. Is often the other language that you might hear around that. These are programs that we partner with, that we don't run the program, but students are still they're still enrolling with William and Mary, still considered William and Mary programs, are supported by William and Mary in all the other ways. And these could be other US universities who have study abroad programs. They could be universities overseas. We usually have a regular cohort of students at the London School of Economics, for example, where they're directly enrolling. Or they could be through organizations that create structured programs. We work really closely with those organizations. And before any student applies for non-William and Mary third-party program, we're always making sure that those credits are also eligible for transfer, and that, again, we've had those touch points and work together. Just to kind of dive a little bit deeper. So one of the examples for a sponsored semester program, to give you a sense of what that really means, is the La Plata, Argentina program. It focuses on human rights. Students take, La Plata is just outside of Buenos Aires, so they have the opportunity to be close to this bigger city, but they're also in a place where we work with an NGO, the Commission on Memory there. They teach some courses just for our students, and then we partner with the local university to be able to take courses there. So they have the thematic focus, but they also then are able to take courses across a broad range of disciplines at the university, and in an internship and research component is part of this program. So that is an example of where it really is customized and designed for our students for a semester program. Tuition exchange programs, as I mentioned, our students are moving back and forth. These are some details around how these things work. It does, because it is dependent on mobility in both directions, it does mean that the offerings do change over in a given semester or a given year. And so we encourage students to come talk to us early about these programs. One note here, and it comes up again under the financial questions, but is, this for exchange programs, tuition exchange programs, you continue to pay regular William and Mary tuition and fees. So you have that kind of regularity around that. And usually students are going for a semester or two. And these are transfer credit only, and again, some of the deadline information, but we'll cover some of this generally. And I would just encourage you across the board and your student to visit our website, where there's a lot more detail about this. This is a list of examples of partnerships we have around the world. As I mentioned, because it's dependent on both parties sending students, it means that not all of these may be available at all times. And this is just a sample. This list has changed. So we encourage you again to check our website. But it gives you a sense of that, there are many different places around the world and different types of institutions. One question that often comes up is, we're not in the joint degree, but can we study abroad at St. Andrews? And the answer is yes. We have an exchange and a direct enrollment option with St. Andrews University. And so even if your student is not in the joint degree, they're absolutely able to go for a semester, a year, or in fact, we also have a summer program there. Faculty-led short-term programs. As I mentioned, these are where William and Mary faculty go abroad with our students. These happen in summer and winter breaks. So these are separate courses from their regular semester courses, even though we don't have a January break for winter. These are kind of standalones. You're going abroad with generally William and Mary students, although the goal is to get students as much into contact with local students or with local communities. That could be through homestays in some programs, for especially those working on language, for example, or other types of connections. And we work with local partners in these locations, really leveraging and having courses that draw on the unique opportunities that are offered in these various sites as well. So we run 2 programs together with our classical studies, where again, they are actually out there looking at ancient ruins in Italy and in Greece regularly, right? Things that you would see in a drawing here or a picture, but our students are able to be there on the site and see all of that. That could be learning from faculty, because the courses and some of these programs are also not only taught by William and Mary faculty, but it's a chance to learn from faculty from other universities, again, sharing their expertise and connecting that to the site where students are. And we'll talk a little bit more about some examples. As I mentioned, everything we talk about today has Call 300, but some of these faculty-led programs also have some possibilities for Call 200. It depends on each term. And so again, just as your student is planning, we do publish that information. And so again, that can be valuable for some students who are looking to kind of make sure they're meeting all the requirements. An example of a faculty-led is we have a longstanding program in Cape Town, South Africa. One of our faculty who's led it a few times already is a dance faculty. So this gives you a sense of like, we have a broad range. We have chemistry faculty taking programs. We have lots of other like broad across really the variety of disciplines. But in this case, when we talk about community engagement again, they actually got to dance and connect with some local dance companies. And there's no dance prerequisite for this program either. It was really a way of connecting and learning and doing shared learning together with others, and through that connecting with community and learning about their host cultures. A couple other examples, again, these are not comprehensive. These offerings do change regularly, and even the themes of programs change each year. But for example, we have a Goa and Bangalore, India program focused on globalization, and then it comes from different themes. So we work there with the National Law School in Bangalore. So our students get to engage with their students and see what the university is like there. And then they go to Goa, and so they can contrast different locations where, again, they're working also with the local faculty. I mentioned the Cape Town program earlier. That's in some years it had a dance element to it. This year it's about global health management and history, and one of our faculty from kinesiology and health studies is leading that program. Our Santiago de Compostela program, for example, involves walking the Camino de Santiago and thinking about pilgrimage studies from a variety of different disciplines. And then we have lots of different language programs as well. The Berlin, Germany program is just an example of that, where it really is about immersion in language and homestays and intensive language training at a local university along with other students, and then of course, with our faculty as well. This is the list of this summer's courses abroad at the moment. Again, these programs, these change. There will be some other ones coming up for next year, and they do evolve in their themes as well. Similarly, there are winter programs. As I mentioned, this is an area that they're seeing tremendous growth. These were the programs that were offered this winter. The rotation of these programs does vary. Many of these will be offered again. You saw the La Plata, Argentina human rights semester that had a Spanish requirement. We have a winter program because our students were so interested in this, but maybe they didn't have the Spanish language requirement, but wanted to go. Our Heidelberg, Germany program this past winter was chemistry, and they were in the labs and meeting with scientists and really learning how this international research lab and institution worked. Our students who went to Oman, they traveled all through the country with a geologist and an anthropologist. Sometimes it's been geology and music, which is why for a while this was fondly called by our students the rock music program. But again, it's a great way to think about physical environment and culture and how those two intersect. Auckland, New Zealand, again, was a new program for us and tremendous interest. A local faculty taught Maori studies, and then one of our history professors also taught, of course. The Kigali, Rwanda program focuses, for example, on, the kind of history of Rwanda. We work with a local NGO, and faculty from the School of Education lead it, from the counseling program that look at like forgiveness and other things. Our Geneva, Switzerland program, for example, also looks at public health usually in some ways. And then the business school also, we usually have some offerings as well. So this is just a snapshot. I don't want to take too much time. These are this year's, it will be different for next year, but just please keep checking our website. And winter 2024 offerings will be offered in the next month or so. You'll be able to see it on our website with deadlines then in the fall. Some other logistics, because I know generally and thank you, Lisa, for checking the questions as they're coming in, but at least some other logistics that students or parents have often asked, things like how do grades work? Again, we Mary faculty led, because we are designing those courses and our faculty involved in the delivery, as well as the Sylvia and La Plata semester programs are William and Mary courses. They factor into the GPA. Everything else comes back as transfer credit. And we work with students, and each academic unit here at William and Mary, each department has a designated faculty member to work with students who are going abroad and to study abroad and then transferring credits back. As I've mentioned repeatedly, the Call 300 is for all. It's part of the process, that those courses will count for that. In terms of application requirements, because there are hundreds of different programs, there are also lots of different requirements, but these are the kind of general ones that we have for all, which means, again, academic and conduct good standing. If you're on any type of probation, during the time of abroad, not eligible to be abroad. And there are often, sometimes we try, especially for our own programs, to have as few requirements as possible, but certainly some partner institutions may have some GPA requirements. And obviously for some language programs, there are language prerequisites if it's an intensive language, advanced language program. Having said that, there are also programs that are language focused that do not have language requirements, because maybe students are starting a language overseas, or because they want to go to a particular country and the course offerings, even if English isn't the first language, but the course offerings might be in English already and therefore not require having language skills. So, like, for example, our Winter La Plata program, we need the language for the semester, but in the winter, we're able to work with translators and others to make sure that the experience, that everyone still be able to communicate. In terms of deadlines, these are some very, very general deadlines. I really encourage everyone to go check on our website. I will flag here, the Oxford program has a much earlier deadline. And so if your student is interested at all at Oxford, please have them contact our office, check the website, know exactly when that is, because those are earlier deadlines from our host institution. And therefore, we need to make sure everything is ready in time. Funding and money is obviously one of those really important questions and topics that we want to talk about. On the funding side, we are very pleased to be able to offer and are always seeking to increase the amount of study abroad scholarships for our students. Financial accessibility is really, really important to us and something that we very much prioritize. So we're very happy to have over $700,000 in study abroad scholarships this year. I hope that that will continue and hopefully grow in the future. I say that while most of the scholarships are financial need based, we work really closely with the financial aid office, but we also have some really amazing merit scholarships. And so just in general, I encourage, if you're talking to your students and they're talking about money, encourage them to also check out our scholarship page to see if they might be eligible or want to apply for the scholarships. These are not super onerous processes, and students are able to find that information on our website. If your student is receiving financial aid, those are generally portable as well. We work with the financial aid office really closely and are always happy to talk with students too about the process, and more information can be found on the website. And we also try to leverage, whenever possible, external funding sources. So for example, there's a national scholarship for Pell Grant recipients. They can apply to the Gilman Scholarship, and we work closely with students who want to apply for those external funding sources as well. On the cost side of things, again, back to the point of there are hundreds of different program options, and therefore a lot of answers may be, it depends on the program, but also going back to the different types of program names and or types that I was outlining before. This just gives you a rough estimate, again, of like the structures of how this works. So for faculty-led and the sponsored semester programs, they run on a program fee basis, which includes like academic costs, excursion, housing, and partial board. And so it's all bundled together, and you'll see that on the website. For these programs, you are then not on top of that paying anything on for like regular, like if you're going on a sponsored semester program, for example, you're not also paying William & Mary regular tuition and fees. Instead, this replaces that. Similarly, if you're going on a summer program, this includes the academic costs. So you're not paying on campus, or you're not paying regular tuition and fees plus this program fee. It is all lumped into one fee for ease so that you know what those costs are. There are also budget sheets there to give you a sense of what previous students told us they spend on things like flights and other types of expenses that they had. We really want to give as comprehensive a picture of what the cost of the program can be. For the tuition exchange programs, as I mentioned, it's tuition and fees. Like you stay enrolled here at William & Mary for all these programs, but for tuition and fees, for a tuition exchange semester programs, you're also keeping your regular William & Mary and tuition and fees in place. There also are a few other things that we that you will see then, the off-campus study abroad fee, as well as an international health and evacuation insurance, which is a required policy, which I'll talk about in just a couple minutes. But other than that, you would see your normal fees. In terms of room and board, in those cases, you would work directly with the host institution. For example, if your student is living in the dorms, they'll have instructions for how they would pay for their room and board to the local institution or organization or whatever, self-catered if that's the setup. And then for these non-William & Mary third-party programs, your William & Mary bill would look really different if for like a semester, for example, but it also applies for summer and winter, in that is the study abroad off-campus fee, as well as the insurance, and the 170 is for the semester. It is less for the winter and for the summer because the terms are less. And that all, and then whatever other, there may be a few other things if your students has commitments here at William & Mary, but in terms of tuition and the regular fee package, those would not be charged, and instead you would be paying all costs directly to the host program. There obviously is great variability in those program costs, and the cost of programs is definitely something that we also work with students who come to us and say, hey, both on like what is the quality of the program and what are the academics of that program, but also costs. And again, much of that information is available online, but we're happy to work with students. But it does look different, and again, more details on the website if you have questions. So health and safety is obviously, even though I put it here, in many ways it's so that we can also have conversations if you have questions, but it is very much it's front and center long before the pandemic, but certainly these last few years have had unique wrinkles in that space. But we, it's central to what we do. There are extensive protocols at the whole university level. We do pre-departure orientations together with offices all around campus to provide as much information to students. We're available 24 hours a day. We have an international travel and security manager. I, and many others are available always to support students. And of course, we partner with people all over the world, our host organizations and universities who are there on site with your students. We do require a CISI, International Medical and Evacuation Insurance. More details are on our website. And that's what those charges you saw earlier, the 170 for the semester is the current fee. We work really closely with the State Department and OSAC, which is connected for academic institutions. Through our international insurance, we get security briefings and other things. And so really, there is a lot of behind the scenes robust infrastructure in place to mitigate risk. And then when there are emergencies or issues, to be able to support our students. So I leave you with some next steps because you might say, oh, my student tells me they're interested. Where can I direct them? Really encourage students to go visit our website, our office. We actually have peer advisors Monday through Friday who are here for walk-ins. As of course, we also have a whole staff of professional advisors. But from 11 to 5, students can come in and meet one of their peers who's been trained and who's studied themselves, can set up appointments with our advisors. And we also have some videos online. Study Abroad 101 and Study Abroad 201 really give good introductions to some of the most pressing questions, and then 201 starts getting more granular when students have chosen programs. They're available online, or if your student really prefers to come in, they're offered every day, Monday through Friday, and they can come in and then have conversations around that as well. So with that, I'm checking the time, and I think we're in really good shape. I'm just really delighted you're here, and I cannot thank you enough for the support of your students and who are considering study abroad. We know this is an experience for the whole family, and or that many people are involved in making all of this possible too. And so we very much look forward to connecting here, and then meeting your students when they come to our office. So with that, thank you. And I will also now ask my colleague, Lisa, if you can help me parse through any questions that I can answer.
Yes, so we've been doing a really great job at answering a lot of questions that are coming through, but a big one, a very common one that I wanted to say for you was the Virginia 529 prepaid tuition plan, how that plays in with both William and Mary study abroad and third-party study abroads.
Yeah, and again, there are lots of different, and I know 529s are also not just Virginia. So definitely something that we work with pretty regularly, and we work closely with the student accounts office as well. These programs are charged through William and Mary programs are charged through the regular student billing that you would see. And so it definitely in general is possible in many different ways. But again, I always feel like the devil's in the details. So we have more information on our website. And then if that kind of break it down by different types of categories. And we're always happy to also, together with our colleagues, liaise to talk through any specific things, because there are different types of prepaid versus other types of models as well.
Thank you. If there are vaccination requirements for a particular country, are they available at the William and Mary Health Center?
That's a great question too. And we we work really, really closely with the health center, so that in fact, we encourage all students before they go study abroad to also check in with them, because they often do have, their vaccination records, and in many cases are able to do the vaccinations. There also is a travel clinic that's that has been locally, where if it's something like very, very specific, that they may also be able to help with that.
Wonderful. Let's see what else we have. Now, I know that you had said that winter and spring of 2024 are coming here in the coming weeks. Do we have a timeline for summer 2024?
Yeah, you will start seeing applications open for summer 2024 in September. So more information will be coming. We'll say most of the summer programs are pretty regularly offered. Every year there are maybe one or two that are new, or that are just a 1 year because of something very specific happening in a place. Yes, and then at that time too, it will list what the courses are. So for example, our Cambridge program, in some years, like when you're taught organic chemistry, and then the next, maybe another year, it's all English literature courses. So it's not only location, but you'll also at that point know what the topic of and what the courses are, the William and Mary courses that are being taught there.
Okay. How is on-campus housing handled during a semester abroad?
Yeah, great question. I know housing is super important. So your students, obviously, if they have on-campus housing, are signing a contract. Study abroad is a acceptable reason to break that contract without penalties. And so we work together with our Residence Life colleagues, share the information of the students who have confirmed. We do this only after really double checking with students that they are studying abroad. For example, if they're going abroad in the fall and they need to drop their fall housing or vice versa, but they had on-campus housing, or vice versa, if they are on campus in the fall and then leaving for the spring, working really closely once everything is confirmed for the study abroad program, then together with Res Life are able to then drop the students. If your student is abroad in the fall, then students would contact and has withdrawn from the contract, they would then work with Residence Life, who are very aware of this and do this for lots of students every year, to let them know that they would like spring housing because they've been on study abroad, and work with Residence Life. In general, we do have more students who study abroad in the spring semester than in the fall semester. But again, it has worked in both directions for our students.
Wonderful. Can you touch on any study abroad options for students admitted to the business school? Are there opportunities that allow them to meet those requirements?
Yeah, absolutely. You saw that this winter there was, and that program has run a few times already in Southeast Asia. That was a business course specifically, and students took a fall course preparing for that. But we also have one of the exchange programs you saw listed was for the Vienna Institute, the University of Economics and Business, Wirtschaftsuniversität, and it is that is all business curriculum. It's a business university, and so that is designed only for business majors to be able to go there. And then we work with lots of other partners, either partners who are large universities who only have business, or third-party programs that work together with local institutions to craft business programs. So it's a really broad range. We have a lot of business students going abroad, or students who are interested in the future in pursuing business. Maybe they're still earlier in their academic career and wanting to just get a sense of what that might be like. So definitely a variety of opportunities. Again, we work really closely with our colleagues over at the business school too. So for their own, for like own William & Mary programs or third-party programs.
Thank you so much. And this is a very, very hypothetical question, but with some of the things that are happening right now in Russia and the Ukraine, how does William & Mary handle those kind of situations and plans for potential evacuations?
Yeah, I mean, the world is certainly, as the last few years have shown, but even, in years before, in different scenarios, we're always, first of all, monitoring things very carefully. And that's why connections and working closely with colleagues overseas, with State Department, with other organizations is obviously critical in all of that. And then again, our insurance company and the kind of policies there are also really, really important for things like evacuations and for our planning and things like that. So while there are, of course, many, many different potential scenarios and all that, there are always ongoing conversations and planning for what might happen in different circumstances. I think back to, for example, 2011, when, it was required to evacuate out of Egypt and Syria, for example, because of developments. Again, it's very much in close partnership with U.S. government, our insurance companies, our local hosts and country to find the best ways of responding and collaborating together. So yes, definitely something we're monitoring around the world. I will say, for example, I think probably even in the span of this presentation, I've gotten numerous quick updates about security things around the world, and most of them, are small. Like there's a protest here or there, but we really are monitoring things very, very closely. So.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And just because I know this is kind of a longer question to ask, but we are getting a lot of questions about how do third-party programs work involving transfer credits? And what does that process look like?
Yeah. And actually, I know, Lisa, you are you're the moderator today, but I know this also feels so thrilled to jump in because you get to work with these transfer credits. But there is and again, more information online, including a video about some of the steps and how all this works. And it's certainly something we talk about during pre-departure orientation for students and extensive online. But as I mentioned, in each of the academic departments here, there's a designated faculty member each year who is responsible for vetting and reviewing the transfer credit, but it's our office that really brings all the different pieces together and then works with the registrar's office to have it be posted. These transfer credits, there's some general rules for transfer credit, whether it be for international or for domestic, in particular the grade equivalency, for example, of a C or better, and then that the content needs to align. And again, there's a process for pre-approval where students are encouraged to talk with their faculty before their departments. There's an extensive list on our website if you're interested in going there, what the instructions are for each of the departments and some different approaches of how they do that. And then all students write a reflection essay at the end after finishing up their program. And so the course approvals, this reflection essay, the transcript, obviously from overseas, all come together, and then they're posted as transfer credit on the agenda. Again, for semester, it is required to transfer back at least 12 credits, 12 to 18 credits for that semester, even if the student doesn't need that, because we have been vouching for them as full-time students and they're abroad because this is an academic program for a full-time load. But again, we work really closely on those. There are different grading, scales, different institutions, and so there are mechanisms to making sure that the alignment is there as well. Lisa, anything you want to add to that?
I think I just want to add to, I think I want to set realistic expectations when it comes to the process of transferring credits. It is very manual on our end. It can take several months because, as Sylvia was saying, our office needs to receive not only the transfer credit approval from their faculty, but then also the student needs to submit their Call 300 reflection essay, have that read and approved by our committee, and our office also has to specifically get an official transcript from that third-party provider. So we have to have the unicorn of all three requirements coming together in order to make that happen. So we'll have students who study abroad in the fall and on January 5th are emailing wondering where their transfer credits are. So just something to keep in mind, a little bit of patience and just understanding that it is a little bit of a lengthier process, but if the student is kind of on the ball and is submitting that reflection essay and has requested that transcript, it shouldn't take more than a month or two. But just to kind of understand that there is definitely a process to making this happen.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, absolutely. I do have one more question for you, Sylvia, that just came through. Okay. How are communications regarding the programs handled? For example, who will distribute information regarding generalities and specifics of programs, and who will be, making those communications with the student and parents and guardians?
Yeah, so there are lots of different ways that we want to connect with and are available to connect with students and with families. In terms of the application, which is really the main kind of formal mechanism, it is a applications and enrollment management system. So when our students are on our website and you start drilling down to I want to see what the information is about a particular, let's say a Waymarry summer faculty-led program, there's information on the website, and then also this apply button. And that really then, if they start that process, it is not only for the application, it's not one of those I upload a bunch of documents and then that's it. It is a system that accompanies students throughout the entire time, and therefore it is also a place where important documents and repositories are available for them, and where they're digitally signing some things or uploading materials, or we upload materials, for example, when we get when they get the transcripts or other things like that. So that is one vehicle of the kind of one place to go for a lot of information. On the kind of early side of things, there are information sessions or various outreach opportunities. There, it, again, depends a little bit on the type of program, especially for the William and Mary ones. We have professional global education advisors, got our peer advisors. So a lot of students do have those individual meetings as well, depending on the program, right? If it's a William and Mary program, they're also working like a faculty-led, working with their professors here and our office. If it's a third party or a different university, they may also be in contact with them. So it does really vary in terms of what that communication looks like. All students before they go do have then a series of orientations. There's a general program, pre-departure orientation, as I mentioned, that includes contributions from offices around campus, things like, and it's available, like our students will get that like towards the end of the semester before they're heading overseas, but that's with the health center and the counseling center and our dean of students office and others. There then are the regional orientations. So they're actually happening now for the summer and fall. These next few weeks, our students are coming in and getting to meet maybe returning students or advisors, or our faculty-led programs have one credit pre-courses before they go. So there is a lot of contact in that space. And certainly if a student ever wants to come in and ask more questions, or they also then have, if they're not on a William and Mary program, then they have all those other contacts as well for those who are running the program on the ground for them. In terms of other, the website and email, I would say are really critical, and of course, then for the student side, that application and enrollment management portal. And then I would say too, for William and Mary faculty-led programs, we do listservs for any families or contacts that students provide the contacts for, and then there are some routine updates throughout the program just to kind of check in and let people know what's happening for those particular programs as well. So I don't know if that helped answer. I guess there's a long process in all of that, and really, please just encourage your students to come talk to us if they have any questions, and our contact information for the whole team is also on our website.
Thank you so much. Is there an advantage to applying earlier for more competitive options, or are all applicants evaluated only after the deadline for acceptance?
It's again one of those, like, it depends. There are, for William and Mary programs, when we've posted a deadline, that means that's when we will begin. Right after that is when we begin review. So there's not rolling admissions in that. I'd rather have a student really thoroughly complete their application and consider those aspects than feeling rushed to get something in and not, maybe have time to focus on the essays if there's an essay involved in the application. There are some third-party programs that can be rolling admissions as well. And so again, that does depend. They do generally publish that. And so again, in those cases, by all means, and students for third party don't have to wait to register with us. If they find the program on our website, they apply directly to that third party program. And they just need to complete a couple steps for third party programs to us by our deadline. Our deadline is intentionally set late because it's really more of a registration. The selection for third party programs is done by those who are offering the program directly.
Wonderful. I think we're good to go.
Oh, fantastic. Oh my goodness. Yeah, well, I really appreciate everyone's time for being here and your support of the students. And we, just look forward to working with everyone, and do let me know if you have any questions.